He will make it louder. Okay, we are live.
Yeah, we're live. Good. Welcome, everybody. I just was giving a few points here in the audience. Would you do me a big favor and switch off your mobile phones, if you don't mind? So please put them on silent, so we don't have any ringing. And we just, actually, I think we're going to welcome the director for the Slovenian pavilion. So we'd like to come and say a few words before I say thank you to you.
Thank you. I don't need a mic. I will. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bokashi Tea, and I'm from WJC, director of the Slovenian. As you know, we are really proud to be part of Expo, and we are really proud that we can host the companies like Bokashi Tea and other companies, because why? After 16, 17 months hungry for business, no shows, no personal contacts, nothing. We got this Expo for 6 months. Slovenia is hosting about 130 plus companies for 6 months. 14 business delegations, 2 cities, Ljubljana and Maribor, and 5 regions. It means the traffic in this pavilion will be all the time the same. But that's why we're here. And especially when I have seen on my list, the companies like Plastic as countries, my proud to be Slovenian is growing. Because I'm following this company, I know this company, and that's why it's important, because 192 countries are here for 195 of this country. We always have the poor mystery, need to come. The whole world is here. That's why, I'm thankful the lady from the shape is here. They're open the door for us. If we can come and show the rest of the world how good we are, what we are doing, and I think Plastic Pascal is a really good example. How good we are, what we can achieve, and what we can also show the rest of the world. In Slovenia, what we are doing, and also to share, all knowledge with the rest of the world. But still, and don't forget, I know a lot of my people there, but the Slovenia is the only country in the world with the word love in the name of the country. I'm reading this all the time. That's why, again, I always say, Slovenia with love. Thank you.
I'm just wondering if Stella gave you some shares in the company. Thank you so much. So we would like to sincerely thank the Slovenian pavilion for giving us for hosting this morning. And also we want to thank Stella as well, actually, because they've put a lot of effort and work into us being able to be here today to have these conversations. Why are we here actually having these conversations? What is the importance? And we're going to talk today about food waste, but why are we having all these conversations, and why are we talking about sustainability? What's going on in the world? And I want to just start by showing you this film. I mean, COP26, of course, I presume everybody is just adhered to the TV or radio, listening and watching to what's going on and what we expect actually as people and citizens of this earth, what we expect to come out of COP26, and that is the big A word. And it's not A for Adrian, but it's the A for action. So I just want to quickly, briefly, let's have a look at this, and then I'll come back to you. I've lived here in the UAE for 13 years now, and I've always said if I have to leave sustainable city, I will leave the UAE because I don't think I want to live in any other community.
Meet Adrian Doolin, the CEO of a sustainable cleaning service company in the UAE. She was kind enough to invite us to her home in Dubai. What kind of Dubai? Not the downtown you might know from the pictures. She lives about a 20-minute drive from there in a self-sustainable community called Sustainable City. We were interested in finding out what it's like living in such a community. What are the main benefits and challenges? But more on that a bit later.
Today, you're joining us here at Sustainable City in Dubai. We at Companies Casa are helping to develop sustainable communities all around the world by presenting solutions for one of the society's biggest problems: what to do with our waste. Our society uses a lot of waste.
Our addiction to plastic is catastrophic. No one we know is particularly fond of taking up the garbage.
It's become a problem of global proportions. According to the World Bank, around 2 billion tons of waste is produced every year.
From a financial perspective, mismanaged waste is expensive. For communities, this means the cost of waste gathering, transport, handling, sorting, and more. On the other hand, the right way of managing waste lowers the cost of transport and handling. But most importantly, waste becomes a new resource. People often don't realize that bio-waste makes up 34% of all municipal waste. Only 57% of bio-waste is not even recycled in the first place. How to properly treat bio-waste will be the focus of our story. The best place to start making a difference is right in our own home.
So, what exactly is our role at responsible bio-waste management? We're developing solutions, products, and services for food leftovers and organic waste to become a resource. Here, at Sustainable City, we're going to show you an example.
Sustainable City is basically an example of how modern cities in the future will have to look like. It's a net zero energy community, modeled to become an international showcase for high quality, sustainable living. There are 3,000 people living in 500 villas in 89 apartments.
So the sustainable city is very much about what we say closing the loop. We want to demonstrate that by living locally, you have access to local resources. My name is Karim Al-Jasir. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Diamond Developers here in the Sustainable City. Living locally applies to energy, producing our own energy from rooftop solar panels. It is about wastewater treatment and reuse. It's about indoor vertical farming and urban farming so that we can contribute towards food security. And it's also about reusing different waste streams from recyclables to organics to electronic waste so that we can extract value from our waste and then thereby close the loop and reduce dependency on raw material.
As you say, Sustainable City is the perfect place to implement SCADA's solutions to the organic waste problem. Bokashi Organco composters. And here's where Adrian comes back to our story. She's been personally using SCADA's composter for about 5 months now. As a user and as an expert on sustainability, she shared with us her prolific insight into what using it is really like.
The one thing I think is really easy about it actually, because I've done composting before, and I've had worms crawling around the kitchen or whatever, so it wasn't ideal. But with the Bokashi, no smells, no flies, absolutely nothing. So it makes it super easy. And I'm always recommending it to people to go that way because it's convenient. And I think that's the big plus about it. Plus you're helping the environment. So.
Bokashi is a certain type of composting. It's another word for the fermentation process that happens in Bokashi composters with the help of effective microorganisms.
The benefit of using Bokashi Organco compared to a normal bucket where you put bio waste in. So you said no smell, odor,
Yeah, I mean, a recent example, which is quite gross, but a friend of mine, he's just throwing all his compost into like a makeshift sort of bin, and he turns it in his garden, he has it, and he turns it in regularly. And recently he opened it and he threw it out onto the grass, and it was just full of cockroaches. So I said to him, you need to take the Bokashi bins, it's way easier.
As you heard, Adrian, the Bokashi method is way more efficient and user-friendly than other ways of composting. And here's why. The volume of bio-waste is reduced by 25%. There's no unpleasant smell, no insects, and most importantly, no inconveniences. Let's move to Adrian's kitchen to actually see Bokashi Organco composters in action.
Okay, let's go now. We've already been talking about our Organco Bokashi. Let's show how to use it now, step by step, really easy. And this is our daily. Here's my vegetables, here's my Bokashi. I'm going to show you now exactly what I'm doing on a daily basis. Any of my waste, popping it in here, really easy. Now this is not how I normally prepare my vegetables. I'm usually a little bit better than this, but just to give you an example for today, we're going to put all of our waste into the daily. Let's just give you this, right? So let's say you're finished on the end of your day, and this is great because you can store everything in it from, breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything you want to put into it. And then we're going to start, and we're going to use the Organco. This is a lovely unit. I don't usually have it sitting here, but I do actually have it on my display counter because I actually like it. I think it's really snazzy. Just get this up, pop the waste inside. As I told you earlier, this is absolutely for dummies. Super easy to clean the daily because it's just rounded soft surface inside, so it's really easy to clean. So remember that one. Got my waste inside here. I'm going to get my fermenting bran. This is what they call like an anaerobic type of fermenting, a little bit different from composting. So I'm going to get my bran, usually perfectly measured out. I'm going to sprinkle this now on top of the waste. Lovely smell, especially as we mentioned earlier for the dogs. This I'm going to push down now because we want to get any air out of it, and we're going to leave it so really easy. Hear the air popping out of it. I'm pushing it down as much as I can. No need to use your feet on it because this is a really good presser. Lid on, done. So you can leave this one for a few weeks. You'll usually have 2 in the house so that you can, when this is full, you leave it for a couple of weeks before you're going to utilize it in your soil. Wonderful little tip here, you get this brilliant Bokashi tea. So all you have to do is put a jar or a collection jar, whatever you're going to use, underneath it, a bottle, open it, open the tap, it opens really super easy. The liquid will come out and you can use this, dilute the liquid, be careful to make sure you dilute it and use it for watering of the plants in the garden, and it's absolutely fantastic fertilizer. Super easy, saving the environment, getting rid of all your food waste, stopping all this food waste going into landfill, methane, CO2.
We will continue to play our role in developing effective and convenient treatments for food leftovers to become a resource.
So I just wanted to mention that no floor or local organisms have actually been harmed during the making of this movie. Siana, I'm going to start with you because you're my heroine, my savior. Because I had explained in the video, and it's a super easy process for this Bokashi composting, but for me, I can't dig it into my ground because I have 2 dogs and they will just gobble it all up. So without Silan, actually, my composting may, go to waste, which I don't want it to do. So I'd like to start with you and tell us about your journey, and thank you for being my savior for helping me. And just we'd like to know how you started out on your journey.
I think for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So actually, like literally, what I said in the video is correct. So we're literally looking for a solution because, especially during COVID, I was cooking alone. When you cook alone, you don't really like it's easy. You go to work, you do your thing. You don't really see how much food scraps, not even waste, that you are generating because it's just like how it is. Like they told us that you peel it and you throw it. And this is kind of routine and reflex that we have here. And So during the COVID, me and my co-founder, we are getting together. We start actually cooking a lot, and our diet is mostly plant-based, so that's why like everything that we are eating and loving eating, it's literally ending up like a quality bag or a bin of the food scraps. And actually one day I took the banana peel and I just said like, asked that, I don't think that this is really supposed to go to landfill because if we are talking about how the nature beautifully designed, everything has, perfect, the way that it works. I said that if this is supposed to end up in landfill or anywhere, this shouldn't have any nutrients in it. But actually, all the peels, everything has a lot of nutrients, and some of them actually has different nutrients than the inside part that we're eating, we're consuming. Okay, and so like how this thing works. So like what happens if we don't, interfere? And then we start watching a lot of videos about, what happens to these in the nature. They just decompose and they become a soil, they're part of it. And the nutrients that we are actually not getting or consuming, we're destroying soil, and we are getting this indirectly when we grow our food again in this soil. So this information is just one day, literally like strike something here, and it's just triggered. It's that nonsense that I know if I have this information, and if I can't tell this to others, if I can't do something about it, it will start eating me. And I can't just let it stop. Every time literally, like it might sound a little bit exaggerated or I don't know how you call it, but every time that I was eating a banana or something, I was saying like, I'm so sorry that I'm 12 years away, but I have to. Like I didn't know how to do what to do, and we started doing our Bokashi at home, we started doing composting at home, and for 6 months or so, we went back to my hometown in Turkey. We had garden and everything, so everything was so easy, Bokashi, we do it, we bury it, or we have other files. We started to also learn composting and everything. And then we said that, what, I think, so I just want to share some numbers. I can't see really memorize them. So there was a report, the food waste index report from 2021 from UN. And so they were saying food waste is becoming a billion-ton problem. And because we were looking for some numbers from different sectors and industries, from which industries we have most of the waste. So when we think of it, we usually think of like retail or food service, because they have bigger quantities, and we always hear supermarkets throwing this much, or F&B outlets, they are throwing everything away. Okay, yes, this is how it is happening, especially here because of the landfill situation. Things are really easy to throw away. And we have this beautiful, actually, tradition that we like to feed everyone. But this ends up, when we don't take the control over, we are ending up just a lot of waste. So we checked from this report from 2021, this billion ton, how this is divided. And actually 61% of it, which is 564 million tons of it, coming from our own kitchens, from households. Other 40 or 39 is coming from the ones that we are pointing fingers immediately, food service and F&Bs or retailers. So that's why we said we need to start from us. And I actually bought a present for my family, Bokashi chickens. I told them, because they cook them, they're a Turkish family, they eat 5 meals per day, they cook. And I told my mom, you're an amazing woman, and I think you can do it. And I told to our janitor in the compound, I told him, I explained how this works, how you can do it. And literally now in our compound in Turkey, there are 5 families that are doing vermicompost because kids love it. And there's so many people that are doing their own composting. and my parents are doing bokashi. They start growing banana trees, avocados, everything in their own compound. And this made us think, if we can make this change in this small scale from people that we know that they don't think about this and they never thought before, if they can do this shift in this quick, I think we can do this in a bigger scale. And
I actually, because that's interesting. If you, yeah, well, because you're talking now about the individual and growing blame industry as well. But because Iris, you're involved in the industry, so you're more in the individual, and I know you're moving towards commercial as well, for sure. But you're already involved just in industrial. And so, do you have any statistics on this that you could share with us? Yeah.
I can tell you a true story here because I am not an expert in waste management, but during my exposure to meeting a lot of prospects, every time you ask them how much food waste they have, and they say, I really don't know. So every time you go there, ask people, they said, oh, I think we have around 10 days in it. So there's no proper statistics. It's interesting. And as you mentioned, Jayla, I hope I pronounced it right. I've been to fruit and vegetable markets as well. It's heartbreaking to see beautiful, beautiful vegetables and fruits. They just throw it away because it has to be thrown away. There's one example that they have 13 tons of fruit and vegetables every day. And then they've given away around 4 tons, so the rest goes to landfill. So,
Yeah, so sorry, we don't have the mic, can we? And this is, I feel like I'm taking over every time. And yeah, I mean, that's what we want to prevent. But for businesses, and that's it for people looking in, for businesses, what are the business benefits from a financial, because that's what everybody's looking at now.
so for us, there's a lot of benefits which not a lot of people are seeing. Because they only think about the commercial part, but because I represent a company or a system, we repurpose food waste and we closely for our clients. With the landfill cost increasing next year to 1,000%. 1,000%. So previously they charged per trip, and now they're charging per trip, which is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to the initiative. But anyway, so their cost will be reduced. The benefits for them using our system, Wastemaster, is they have their first loop. They can reuse the food waste to a valuable product. And then they have a clean environment. There's no pests or anything. So I'd like to give you an example because I love sharing the story. We have partnered recently with IKEA Festival City, and they have processed 23,000 kilos of food waste since April. So 100% of that will go to landfill. We have given the residue to a bed farm in Dubai. So fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic, brilliant. Well done, then. And I know they don't normally like sharing these stories, so it's, I'm happy that they are. And yeah, so I want to ask you a couple of questions on just, well, I'll get to why sort of Bokashi, but can you give us an idea of the different types of composting available?
Sure. So, well, first of all, I would like to tell why the composting is the best way to treat biowaste at the first place. So right now we know, I would say 3 scenarios how we treat biowaste. One is going to landfills, which is the worst case scenario. The other is anaerobic digestions, which convert biowaste to fuel. In addition, it can also convert it to fertilizer, and then composting. So with composting, biowaste becomes a used resource and becomes a fertilizer. So if I address those 3 scenarios, what happens if it goes to landfills? Yes, it is actually very expensive. And on the other hand, only in the US, 60 to 80% of emissions in the air comes from landfills. Because if you mix everything together, there are some processes, some chemical processes that are going to happen, and there are some chemicals that are going in the air. So basically, this is from environmental and economical perspective, the worst case scenario that we can address. Then we have anaerobic digestions to treat it into fuel, biogas, which is also okay, but from economical perspective, it is very expensive. And then we come to composting. So composting actually is a scenario how we can get a fertilizer, a new resource. On the other hand, we have a problem with populations growing and we don't have enough food. So if we can treat with good nutrition our soil, we can save other problems. And composting, yes, we know mostly 3 ways of composting. One is called traditional composting, when you pile up everything and then you have to shift it. The second one is with worms. So basically, you give contract to the worms and they do their thing. And the third one is microorganisms. We call it Bokashi composting. And SCASA is currently focusing on presenting the Bokashi composting system. It is anaerobic, also anaerobic process, and it's basically a fermentation. So the base in the composter ferments, so we get a liquid that you can use as a fertilizer and a solid base, which is a composting base that you need to treat a little bit that it becomes compost. And why are we addressing Bokashi composting? It is very good that you can combine it with traditional composting and vermicomposting. And if you do it in your household, before you even put your bio-waste out, it's already reduced by 25%. Which means from the economical and the environmental perspective, that is perfect. And affecting microorganisms, they basically accelerate the whole process. So Bokashi is a very good process that can be combined with other ways of composting.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
How do you find that the worms are able to metabolize the Bokashi leftovers in terms of, because Bokashi normally goes into the soil and it's up to the soil system and that sort of food chain and break it down. If you put it into a worm pit, this is something that's self-contained. How do you find that sort of bond for the ecosystem?
Okay, so what we saw with Bokashi is that it preserves 60% more nutrition than with traditional. And we also see the microflora that becomes better, and there are more earthworms in the soil. So basically, the Bokashi, those are affecting microorganisms. They are very good at balancing the good and bad bacteria, which is for the microflora and the worms actually an advantage.
So the acidity is to just ferment out.
No.
Yeah, I was going to go to after. So yes, that's the thing that you think, like, when you ferment something, acidity is high, and the worms can actually like it, but of course, like, you need to know your worms. They don't eat the whole bin in one day. You need to adjust their food accordingly. You just need to give them a little bit here and there, and they like it, and they process. That the vermicompost is quite rich in nitrogen. The casting is full of nitrogen. So in composting, we have two main ingredients: carbons and nitrogens. So nitrogens are usually green waste that we call just kitchen, the vegetable sprouts and food sprouts and everything.
Good bacteria, and they eat the bad bacteria, so the animals are healthy.
So rebalancing the environment.
Yeah.
So these are the sodium disconnect. Oh, sorry, this is me.
This Bokashi bacteria is really, really amazing, and it is also used when you are trying to compound our biological waste from people. That means if you have a bad smell in your garden, put it on your garden, and the flow, the fauna on the garden will be
uses from.
Actually, I was gonna go back to you now again, and because, well, actually, can I just ask you one question? Sorry, am I gonna go here? It's probably easier. For the, because with the Bokashi, it's plastic, right? Are they plastic? How are they made?
They're made from plastics. We are a plastic manufacturer. What means we are a plastic manufacturer? We are like bad. But when you check what is plastic and if we can replace plastic, it's really practical. When you need something to be light, transportable, and it cannot be damaged, use plastics. But what we are using and what we are also closing is two different cycles. One cycle is a company. One cycle is the cycle of plastics. We are really focusing on using recycled plastic, and that means that all our composters are made from recycled plastic, not recyclable, but we are using recycled plastic. The second group which we are closing is the group of organic or biological plastic.
Is that new?
No. We use bamboo. Honestly, we as a producer are using bio-based plastics, which is made from sugar cane. But it's great, but it's not so great. The really great is that we don't cut bamboo, but that we use the plastic, which is already in the system. And we are pushing really hard to use the plastic, which is already. So our composters are made also from the new line, which we will now launch in November, which will be made out of post-consumer recycled. That is from your trash bin, which is cleaned and then reused. And if we go into the details, the composter, the plastic which we use in composters, 50% of that is post-consumer recycled, and the other 50% is post-industry recycled. That means from the industry production, leftovers, we reuse them. This is really aligned.
Sorry, what content of recycled plastic? Is it true that you guys are also using fishing nets? I was
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. I would like to know, where you're getting it from, because it's such a big topic when you talk about it there. So I think more about that.
We have a special line of our Bokashi composters. It's called Ocean Line. And in each composter, it's approximately 30%. That means 600 grams of canned fish. And
What's the name?
a Bokashi Ocean. It's in black, piano black color. Because we can only do it in black. And it's really heavy, 600 grams in each composter. We need to also add industry recycled plastic, so it's 100% recycled product. Currently, we are importing this material, but now we are also trying, and the new material which we will get will be locally sourced from Adriatic Sea. Adriatic Sea.
Not from me.
Adriatic is Greece, Croatia, and this part currently we are importing from India.
Amazing. So, yeah, so I like this whole full circle. And we want to kind of get back now to the nitty-gritties and the practicalities of composting. And Tilana, I wanted to ask you about a study that you've been doing, or a pilot that you've been doing. And so could you guide us through that? Yes, I'd love to know.
So we recently did two initiatives. One was the pilot project in the sustainable city. We basically worked with 34 units and one FMB outlets. And the FMB outlets were joining us for only 2 weeks. And the others were 1 4 weeks. We did a study because we wanted to understand how much actually food waste or / food scraps, because we are mostly focusing on food scraps because we are trying to eliminate and reduce the food waste that's coming into our bins. So basically how this works, we did an orientation program, a couple of sessions in Sustainable City with the participants, and we explained why we are doing this and how we are doing this. and we gave them guidelines because we are not accepting everything. So, and this will also contains some pros and cons of every system. So, why we need to use them all together to actually make perfect sense at the end. And we explained them, we gave them some numbers and everything, and they were so enthusiastic to start. So, from 34 villas, we had 20 villas that they joined the orientation program. So they did this first workshop with us to understand. I'm telling this because it's quite important. We actually literally track everything to understand if this works. So we meeting them first, explaining and introducing ourselves and explaining the process if it works or not. So from this, I'm just gonna cut a little bit the whole story. In 1 month, from 34 villas in one economic outlets, we rescued 630 kilograms of food scraps, just scraps, not edible, and edible part we are donating, and because we don't want to compost just everything, it's okay. Just compost it. Because we still want, because there's a whole this hierarchy of experiments. First, we need to consume this, then animal food, then composted plants and making habits. And 630 kilograms of food scraps. We composted them. They are still, I think, in a week or so, they will be fully done. And we didn't actually, because usually when you read online how much compost you can produce from this much waste. They usually say 10 to 15%. This percent is when you don't maintain your compost pile, when you end up actually using gases and everything. When you know how to do compost, when you actually maintain your compost pile, we have actually right now 400 kgs of compost. We didn't reduce because our aim is not just to reduce, because for us this is not waste. We want to use this because this is still. We have a lot of organisms in it. You can actually see it smells good. It's hot. So when at the process we are doing hot composting, it reaches up to 60, 65 centigrade degrees. Literally, when you are turning, when you remove the middle part, you see steam is coming. And when you see this, it's like, how can this happen? I didn't heat it. I didn't add anything in it. This is just literally from 35 kilos. We just mixed everything. But good layers. We actually found yesterday one worker, it's like a kind it's just appeared by itself, but unfortunately it's died because of heat. It was there, we saw it, we took pictures, and then she just died.
There's 630 kilos.
Yes, yeah. And we are now trying to finish and we can now then explain and review some numbers and more accurate. And anyway, so if you do a quick calculation, this is a very sustainable community that we are just collecting food scraps. We believe when you work with other communities or other households or businesses, you will be receiving a lot of food waste as well, edible food waste, which these numbers will double and triple. And just a quick calculation, if we would work with this just 35 liters for 1 full year, we can actually reduce 8 tons of food scraps per plant. If we do this with 500 liters for 1 year, this is about 120 tons of food scraps coming from one community. This means a lot of compost. We can talk about food security. We can talk about growing our own food. We were very close to all the participants, and we were actually talking. My WhatsApp is full of conversation with everyone because we told them if you have any questions, want to know, just please text us because I'm here to guide, to share my knowledge. Because if I share it, you will share it for your family, your kids will share it with their friends. This is how we can actually start, get going. We need to know about things. If we don't know it, we ignore it. And Anyway, they start saying we got a lot of testimonials. We knew that this is going to happen, but this was just an assumption. And we now have around 30 testimonials saying that because they start collecting the food scraps in a bin and they start living with it 1 week, and this was continuous, like 1 week you collect everything and you actually give this to us, you see how much you actually gather in 1 week. They start saying that we are actually now reducing our food waste because now we see everything going into this bin, we track. So this, this change in the habits. And once we stop the pilots, we got a lot of messages saying that, so what now, I'm going to throw everything as if it's nothing never happened. Like, how can we continue doing this? This is just 1 month of just practicing something different. This literally changes everything.
So can I just ask you a little bit, so you changed the mindset of people in just 1 month, right, which is great for individuals. I want to know about working with companies, with corporates. How easy is it to change their mindset?
It is challenging because it's where we are. It's challenging at the moment because there's no recycling culture here. I have to be honest on that. And food waste has not been treated as a focus to the purpose, even if it has a value. So what's going on is, we segregate we waste here, the rest here, and then when you follow it in, so that's what we do, it ends up to general waste. So with our system, we engage with the operators, and we say, you write a system, it produces the volume that's on your site. And then when they see that it has a value, then they say, this is amazing. So they work hard and segregate and see that it doesn't value.
Do you think that they'll start to do this in their own homes?
Yes, that would be an inspiration for them.
Yes.
To do it.
If I may step here, you're one of the people, I was one of the people that interacted with clients of the vision, it's actually been a large organization. And although at the moment, I think the costs of the solutions that are extremely high over questions, this might not change the map. Change because the business always something is real something might not window for some. But the organization is such that 1,000 employees, and if only 50% of these employees took away from this, it was a great success.
It's also vice versa, that I think it's so important to work with all the sectors and industries, because if you know your business is doing something like this, you might know how I can implement this to my own lifestyle. But also on the other side, if you are doing this from home, you can actually go and say, you know what, you're a huge company, I want your employee to do something about it. You can actually do something. I am able to do it. Why don't you do it? So we did actually a couple of also small studies and works with some offices. And we gave them as well small bins. We tell them, please bring from your house to the office. And instead of going to a 30 household, we just went to the office and did this. So that's why I think it's quite important to have multiple solutions, because I think so far, with only having one waste management system in place, this doesn't actually serve and give a lot of options to different industries or different families, different businesses. So that's why we are also trying to meet everyone where they are at, because this is not like you don't have to be a marginal to be able to reduce your food waste or be more conscious about it. But you don't have to change your lifestyle to do something like this. Actually, you want this to become a part of your daily life, so you don't even need to see that this is something that actually you're doing. This is something actually you have to be doing. And kids are so they are we're now talking to, every time I see kids in the assessment discipline, I talk to them on chat. They keep saying, Peppa Pig composting. They know everything. I actually watched Peppa Pig composting, like super, super good and super educational. I think literally every panel or everything that I'm gonna do from now on in the, as a base.
They do it on a big scale. They have like thousands of households, and they're doing this. And that's why we came up with from food leftovers to food research to show municipalities. Basically, the goal is in a few years that municipalities will learn that this is how we need to do it. Like I said before, from economical and from environmental perspective, this is the best way how to handle biowaste. And I'm so happy that we could partner with partners here and show them how this is made. And this is a new video. Basically, this was filmed in September, so not a lot of people have seen it. And we already have municipalities from Portugal and in Slovenia and other countries approaching that they want to try something like that. And we're doing also a pilot project in Slovenia, and we'll just give the word to Mattia to say a little bit about that.
Yes, the landfills are the problem, and there's especially in Europe, unfortunately, a lot of cities also don't collect biological waste. In France, we have really good examples. They stop collecting organic waste, and now they're returning. Hey guys, can you help us? City of Amsterdam is one of them. Also in Netherlands, they stop collecting organic waste. Amazing. It's painful. I don't know how they can be elected next time. So this is a huge problem.
Business over.
But they are searching for solutions. We have now one piece together in Slovenia, where we are trying. We are doing a pilot project, 500 households.
Because of the
Bokashi, 500 households without
connection
Bokashi. We have two main key outputs. How many kilograms of organic waste are produced with Bokashi and without Bokashi? The second thing is that we are also measuring the quality of organic waste when they leave households. And they did a due diligence. This is chemical due diligence, and we are measuring between 10 to 15 parameters. And one of them is also how many plastics there is in organic waste. And currently, we get 15% plastics inside organic waste. That means the segmented waste, and with Bokashi, we can come easily to zero. Why? Because these waste management companies, they need to sell this compost, and if they have 10 to 15% of plastic inside what they collect, they have a problem when at the end of the process, when they have compost which is graded really bad, and they cannot sell it, and then it's just waste which they need to put by the side by the by the pilots, because they don't know where to put it.
So, directly to your, from aspect here, because I only have this kind of experience in UAE, and there are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of challenges, and it's not as easy as you think to approach municipalities or governments, and especially us, like being a small startup. And we have enthusiasm, we have information, everything, but we can't just hey, I need your help. Yes, we can do it, but first we need to, learn a lot of things, which we are doing now. With the pilot project, with the networking and everything, then we are now doing this networking to be able to reach right people, and that they can actually shift some stones. And you can actually start working with people because they are quite open. They are looking for solutions, they are implementing solutions, but there is no one single solution. So that's why the different businesses, the startups and everything, that's why they are all collaborating as well. And one thing is quite important. So we are calling ourselves that we are impact-driven startup. So, what is it really? So when you are a startup, you're a business, you are usually profit driven. And there is nothing wrong about it. There is nothing wrong about making money, and which we are also charging. We have subscription plan, we have consultancy and contracts. But being an impact driven, we put in this front, and when we're also looking for investors and municipalities, they don't get this concept at the moment a lot, especially here in this region. And in investors as well, when you say impact-driven startup, they think that you're an NGO, and they don't want to deal with this. So that's why we're also like we're happy that we found ourselves in a place that we can actually speak about this output. We can actually show that impact investment is quite important. Maybe not in 2 years, but 5 years time, we can actually get what we put there, maybe twice the size. So we're not changing our language with everyone that we are talking, because the language as well is quite important. When we are working with households and individuals, when we tell them we are doing an impact report every month, how much impact they are actually doing, collectively and individually. This is quite important for individual level. And we have also in board program where we're working with different companies, we are giving them rewards, intrinsic and extrinsic, that they feel good feeling, and also kind of motivate that they can get some discount from products that are sustainable, so they can actually shift their also consumers side.
Yeah, but it's very important. Actually, because everybody gets overwhelmed around your impact, individual impact. And most people, living a very sustainable life, they are actually still on around 18 metric ton, right? And we should be looking at 2. And so in order to be able to bring through the changes that are very necessary. So these are the impactful things that you're talking about. Impactful, most of startups and SMEs, so we belong in a very big group of Sustain UAE, we're called around 200 different businesses all working in sustainability, and we all have people, planet, profit. And because that's the way we need to go, and that's the way we would love to see corporates. And I think from yesterday at COP26, there was a big, financial announcement made for impactful investing. So hopefully what you're talking about will come. And because I think lots of these small startups, a lot of us, we have solutions actually that can be very impactful, but you have to, yell hardest. Yeah, exactly. But I think what we were talking about earlier, and I think for most, for all of us sitting here together, it's about partnerships and collaboration. And when you do that, like, don't be afraid, he's going to take a profit this. At some stage, everybody benefits. And then the ultimate benefit is our environment. So that's the most important. And I just wanted to ask you about struggles that you find on the market here, and if you could be English speaker, I can answer.
Try very hard. One of the struggles, the challenges we had is the landfill cost, because as I mentioned earlier, it's just very low, and every time, it makes me laugh. Every time I speak to someone, I'm a sustainable champion. It's like, oh, amazing, you're the perfect person I need to speak with. And then suddenly when they say, oh, I just sent it to landfill, it's cheaper. So that's what it is. Sorry?
Blind?
Yeah, correct. Then one thing, just send it to landfill. And then obviously the mindset. And there are also solutions out there that are not environmentally friendly.
Greenwashing.
Yes, and they use the water as a resource and it goes to drainage. So that also is one of the challenges.
And thank you. I wanted to ask you, Jasha, about, because you're a Slovenian company, but you're trying to really operate worldwide to be as impactful as possible. What are the experiences that you're looking at worldwide, and when you look at the Middle Eastern region, what do you see any big differences?
Yes, so my experience comes mostly from Middle East, North, South America, and other parts of Europe. And I would say that we have right now maybe higher awareness in Europe And we also have most of the countries, they are recycling, repurposing, and so on. But there's still a lot that we can do on bio-waste part. I would say that the countries like Middle East, North America, the awareness is coming up. So it's becoming higher and higher. It's not there yet. It has to come bottom up and top down. Basically, we need to work with both. But I am very happy to see countries going towards the goal net zero. So they are promising that they're going towards that. We also see that in some regulations. So in Spain, Portugal, Maldives, bio-waste collection will become mandatory, so collecting and treating separately by 2023. So I see that there are a lot of improvements happening, but like I said, it has to come from all of us, from individuals. It has to come from the demand. So basically, we as individuals need to demand for sustainable products. Then businesses, they are responsible to make sustainable products convenient. So we have to cover everything, and then the government, on the other hand, they need to be responsible for everyone. So we are all in this together. So like I said, if demand is important, businesses making things convenient are important, and then optimization that needs to come from the government.
Does anybody have any questions at this stage? Yes, please.
Okay, I come from a country that is Italy, where the waste management is a very expensive thing. You know, as a citizen, I paid a hefty amount of money as taxes to get this garbage collection. I was living in Milan, where this splitting up of any type of waste was kind of getting some sort of maniac state, where you have different colors of different bags, and in some places, a particular color was for some particular waste and another color was for another thing. And you changed just the place of 20 kilometers and it was completely different. So you had to learn. When you were going to someone as a host, you were used to put things in some way, they were told, no, that doesn't go there, you have to go in another place. What I heard here is that the process of getting this food waste requires some attention on every single stage. So I had my place where the janitor was taking this wet waste and was putting in some bags. But thinking about having to compost at home, those kind of technological achievements that use microbiological things to produce compost could be beautiful, but what I see is that everything just after that stage is a complete disaster. You don't have any means of having anyone going to collect that stuff and process, even in cities. And I think that humanity is going to get more and more into cities, where we don't have beautiful places like sustainability city here in Dubai, where you have gardens, you have green stuff, you can plant your own vegetables. In a city like Milan, you don't even have parking spaces. So thinking about how we manage this new thing that could be compost that could be used for green areas where we don't have green areas. It starts to be, well, but you know, we have few parts, very few parts. So the point is, do you have a plan? Do you have a methodology that allows this thing to be put in place in countries like Italy and in big cities like Milan?
Thank you for that. I think so. You want to bring on your head on that one?
I have one question to say.
Okay. You're feeling like that too.
No. You need to eat. You eat it. Sometimes. And you have food producers who now uses chemicals to fertilize their soil. You can use compost without these chemicals. And this is the look which we are trying to do. And there are biological landfills which can be more sustainable.
Yeah, by the way, we have real problems with no more space for landfills. We are running out, or if we get landfills, they are really toxic because we have issues with people just throwing away into landfills things that should be recycled in a totally different way.
they are not properly managed. But the issue is use as much as you can in your household, because you have plants in your household. Also, if you are in an apartment building, you have plants, and you can use one part of your organic waste already in your plants. Even if that is 10% of your waste, you put some, and then the rest, there are solutions which will be implemented or are already used.
Before I said that even in from economical perspective, that separate treatment and collection is cheaper. So if you have a landfill, you put everything there and it's there, and you have to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But biological waste can be treated into a resource, which means that on one pile, so like waste lab is doing, so now they have 400 kilos, and they're gonna use that to fertilize the soil, and then you're gonna bring another 600 kilos on the same thing, and have another 500 that they're gonna put in the soil. So basically, it's zero waste. The same is with plastic. Do you know that almost 100% of plastic ever produced is still on this planet? Which means that we as a company have also a mission to use that plastic as a new resource, because it is there. The fact is, it is there. So if we can use it as another resource, again, it's not on landfills. We don't just pile up a product, we take it, we use it, and have another product. So this is why, on the long run, separate collection and treatment of all kinds of waste will bring us down on impact on the environment, and so from the perspective of economical expenses.
Silan, just because there's a couple of questions here, and Mark could spend about 10 hours, I think, on this. Every single time we do these panels on anything to do with the climate, it just seems to just go on and on, because there's so much interest. I just want to quickly ask you this, but I think it's for you. And the output after processing can be used as organic fertilizer for large farms.
Yes.
Are you doing that at the moment?
We are trying. We haven't yet, been able to apply in compost, because they have also, even though they are so much into this problem, but they have a lot of question marks. They are skeptical about the quality of it. So at the moment we are collaborating with NGO here, and they have a lot of soil scientists and everything. So once we finish our compost, the first thing that we're going to do the test. Because yes, there are different qualities of compost. And some of them you can apply them into parks, landscape areas. Some of them they are actually perfect for agricultural use. And you can actually, the soil is here sandy. And we need to start changing the structure a little bit in order to make this land and sand agricultural.
Yeah.
The compost is perfect to do this shifts.
Yeah.
And I want to actually tell you as well a couple of things. I actually learned how to recycle in Iran. I lived there for a year, and this made me actually think how important it is to segregate at source. Because yes, we depend on usually municipalities or governments, because we think that they have to come up with solutions and they have to be the one that take care of everything. But I disagree with this. Yes, we need support from them, financially and everything, but we cannot rely on just one big company or something there to solve everything. It's super costly to collect everything from one single market, then segregate this. So that's why segregating at home is so important. It's from dry waste to wet waste, food waste. Segregation is quite important. What we do is, when it comes to organic waste, we give them guidelines for them to segregate at home. Then we take them and we double check. We literally like hundreds of kgs of food scraps. One by one we go through, we eliminate. Because yes, mistakes can happen, and yes, this needs to be checked. You can't just trust your eyes closed everywhere, and no one should do it. So recently I paid a visit to one of the communities here. They have thousands of villas. And usually the system here So in front of your window, you have one black bin, one green bin for landfill and general waste and for recycling. They put things there, but there is no single guidance. There is no single education. Nothing. This real estate developers, okay, perfect. They work with waste management companies. They place these boxes there. And so what happens? So you expect everyone to fully aware of everything and do perfect good segregation. No feedback, no guideline, nothing. And then they come up in a turn and say, they're not doing segregation well, it's not worth it. And from consumer part, there is zero transparency. There are a lot of people, including me myself, we are recycling. We are hoping that we are recycling. We are segregating everything that we are consuming. But when it comes to, I want to know if this is getting recycled. So this is the problem. So that's why we are trying to as well change this. Like a lot of people that we are hearing. Why should I segregate if it's not going to get recycled? And I don't know anything about it. And just I will get your question. So this committee that I visit, and I saw there is only black bin, but the green bin is missing. They removed that.
But it is getting segregated at source a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yes, there is, there are people to do it.
Yeah, there are many people that they are doing this. They just don't trust that someone else doing this afterwards. And from the big players, they say that they don't segregate it. So we need to find the middle ground. So I asked, so I was having a meeting with one of the residents here. I asked, where's your opinion? What happened to it? She said the men decided to remove those because apparently it was so much headache for community management to segregate afterwards. I said, I'm so sorry that they are having so much problem with it. And I asked her, years. So this is not true. This is really not true. The language that we are trying to use as well, is the ways now. It's we can make a difference. Every one of us can change this. And we don't just need to rely on people to change everything. Even this meetings that are happening on the Paris, the Glasgow. Perfect, do it. But please don't do it with your private jet and tell me that they are going to change it. I think that we are the ones that we are going to change things. So that's why I'm telling you, I believe in myself and my partner and friends and everyone that I'm talking. I have full trust in people that we can actually change our behaviors. Maybe it will take time, takes a lot of effort, takes everything, but we will get there because this is the topic that for a long while we haven't talked about it. You kind of got busy with different things and you forgot. I now imagine with my grandmother used to say, she used to put cucumber peels on her face before she composted. She was saying that my skin is getting moisture. It's we forget about this part completely. Now we are relearning everything again. It will take some time, but I think we need to be open and we can believe ourselves that we are going to make a difference.
If it's one thing that I want you to go out with is don't go out with the mindset that one person or a small group can change it because the government needs to change everything. I have been a part of small groups that have made a big impact before, and I think that this is also a group that will make a big impact and it's already making it. So go with the mindset that we can do basically anything. Just don't keep it from it.
Well, I agree to all that you said, and for me is just look at waste as a resource and try to just do it at home, start from yourself, and then you can solve it and reach out to people who might have solutions. Because that's what you said, it's not just me who can save the world. Every time I look at a skip full of waste, I'm like, I cannot save the world on my own. We have to collaborate and just talk about it and discuss and do something.
Yeah, you can do on social media, like if anybody has any social media that they want to share or.
Yeah, I'm sure. You want to share your social media? From companies and stuff.
Because I'm looking for you guys, I can't find stuff, so please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay, just
take one quick one along.
So, our company is called Green Ecotech. Green Eco Technologies, so our Green Eco Technologies. Got in LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
Great.
Thank you. So the company is Kaza. So if you wanna search for us on Instagram, it's Kaza Official. And the bio-waste loop is Bokashi Organic. So swim from the Bokashi Organic. Yes. Yeah, you can find us. Swipe up and the stuff.
Yeah, we have also our own small beta version of websites. You just getting there, or you're getting this?
Okay, listen, thank you all so much. I know this endless conversation can go on, day in, day out. In fact, I live my life with having these conversations 24/7. And thank you all so much. And please, if there is something that you take away, just take away that we can. We do have the power actually to do something. Yes, governments, collaboration, partnership, but we all do. We can make an individual difference. It's about responsibility. And thank you for everybody listening online, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we really look forward. I just want to thank the Love Pavilion and don't forget the Love in Slovenia. And thank you all so much. It's been really, really insightful. And thank you to all the guys for helping for the IT. Oh, and I think I'll volunteer.
I would just like to invite you to eat a little bit and eat everything. And let's see a little bit from your background.
Oh, yeah. So, well, I actually didn't want to mention that to everybody online, but we can't see is a lovely buffet, and we're going to start networking now. So thank you all really very, very much. It's been brilliant. Thank you.